Good afternoon and welcome to Football League World TV. My name's Ned Holmes and this is the EFL weekend preview. After an entertaining round of FA Cup football last weekend, we've got very nearly a full schedule of EFL football over the next few days and a lot for us to sink our teeth into. So to help me break down some of the biggest ties across the three divisions, I'm joined by my Football League World colleagues, Adam Jones and Ben Wignall. Adam, how are you doing this afternoon, mate?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. I'm kind of grateful that we're not going through Reading, as you said before the show. But I'm just, as you said, grateful as well that we've got some actual action to get our teeth into. I did a show like at the latter stages of last month. There was only like 4 that we could pick from, really. So no, I'm really happy to be on this one, and yeah, looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And what about you, Ben? I know you were saying just ahead of the thing, it's been a busy day with all the transfer news banning about, but nice to talk about some actual football.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a while since I've spoken about actual, championship football. It's been 2 weeks since I watched PNE play. I don't want to really talk about the Cardiff FA Cup game. That was a bit of a shambles in extra time. But yeah, good to get pretty much almost a full fixture list of Championship League One and League Two to talk about.
Absolutely. Well, just a reminder, as always, to any EFL fans watching, we do want to hear your comments, your predictions for the weekend games. Are you going to an EFL game this weekend? Please do let us know in the comments. And also give us a like, or the video a like on YouTube, and head to footballleagueworld.co.uk. Subscribe to Football League World TV rather on YouTube, because it really will help us grow the channel. We start then in the Championship with QPR hosting West Brom at the King Prince Foundation Stadium. Adam, I'll come to you for this one first. You know, two teams that are really in the midst of the playoff race. West Brom will probably be hoping to sort of pull themselves back into contention for the top two. But how do you see this one going on Saturday?
It's going to be a strange one, really, because it's two teams that are definitely going to line up in a back three. I know that QPR have got some absentees with the African Cup of Nations, but they'll still have a back three in there, and so will Valérien Ismaël's side. I don't think Val will ever change in his managerial career to anything other than a 3-4-3. So it'll be a very interesting one. In a strange way, I can see it being a sort of basketball match. I mean, some would see it as perhaps being a bit cagey in terms of, both going with 3 at the back, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be a defensive performance from either team. I think that West Brom will be, under the most pressure going into this one, as kind of the team that are kind of most expected to secure their return to the Premier League at the first time of asking. Obviously with Daryl DK as well, that will kind of heighten the expectations there, and I know that we'll go on to him as well. But yeah, I can see this one being quite an end-to-end game, definitely. Obviously, we know that QPR have got vulnerabilities at home with their losses against AFC Bournemouth, and I think particularly disappointing against Stoke City in a game that they probably should have won. So, I would say that there's a home advantage for QPR, and they should be confident because of that. But that doesn't always work out. And for me, I think this will be a really tight game, and definitely one to keep an eye on and one to watch as well, because I think this will be quite an exciting one, and it promises to be a really good game between two sides that, as you said, will be expected to be competing at the right end of the table.
Absolutely. Ben, Adam touched on Daryl DK there. We're hearing it sounds like he's going to be on the bench for this one, but you'd imagine probably an introduction, either West Brom chasing a goal or just to get him a few minutes. Are you excited to see sort of his impact and how he slots in? He's sort of been talked as the perfect player since really Valérien Ismaël took charge at West Brom. He's now there, of course. Are you excited to really see his impact?
I am, yeah. Obviously, had a very good spell at Barnes last season, and I don't think we saw the true him, in the playoff games against Swansea. But for the rest of that second half of the season, he was very good. I think they've not really, had that physical outlet at West Brom this season that, Ismaël likes to, feed off. Jordan Hughill's not really been that man. He's kind of failed to impress. And I understand why he's going to be on the bench. I think the MLS season for Orlando anyway finished a couple of months ago. So, I don't think he'll be, match fit to play 90 minutes. And, if West Brom aren't winning, by like the middle of the second half, it will probably give, him a big lift to see Dyke come on. And the fans will get a lift out of that as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing him, playing with Colin Grant and Callum Robinson. He should occupy, a few of the defenders to give space to them. And I think it could, give the whole club a lift when he starts getting on the pitch and scoring goals.
Absolutely. And turning to the R's then, Ben, Chris Willock looks set to return. He's been training this week after missing the FA Cup game. How important is that going to be for the home side, given Ilias Chair is away with Morocco for the African Cup of Nations?
Yeah, well, I think obviously Willock's been probably the most, creative player from this season. He's kind of, taken that mantle from Chair. He was kind of the one that they relied on last season. But he's kind of shared that kind of, output with Willock, and he's been showing some, the goal against Birmingham where he took on about 4 players and struck it into the back, and that just shows what kind of quality he's got. To bring him back into the fold, that's very important, especially against a fellow team who's going for automatic promotion or the playoffs. So he's going to be, a key player, you'd think, in this match.
Absolutely, and another player, Adam, that could really have a say is David Marshall. Brought in obviously Jordan Archer, the backup keeper, stepped up with Seny Dieng being on international duty, injured himself in saving the winning penalty. Or making the winning save against Rotherham. Marshall joins on loan from Derby. What do you make of that signing? Are you expecting to see some strong performances from the Scotland international?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting one, because I know that I don't think he's made a single first team appearance this season. I think he's been mainly with the under 23s and hasn't even been in the matchday squad sometimes. So it'll be interesting to see how he adapts, kind of being thrown in really at the deep end again. I know that he's got plenty of experience in the Championship, and that will inevitably help him. But still, it's going to be a big ask for him to step straight in. I expect there to be perhaps a few wobbles, against Albion in particular, coming in for his first game, in for his debut, especially in front of the home fans as well. But in terms of Derby, yeah, I mean, I was puzzled that he wasn't the first choice goalkeeper. I know that Allsop has been performing well recently. I know that Root has also made a decent number of saves as well, but both of them have got errors in them. And I think what you get with Marshall is that kind of reliability and that experience in there. He's kind of really the perfect replacement for Seny Dieng whilst he's at AFCON. So I think it was a very good move, actually. Out of the targets that they'd identified, I know that they'd looked at Ben Hamer as well, Freddie Woodman, which I don't think he would have come to QPR with kind of a limited amount, perhaps, of first team opportunities in the second half of the season. But in terms of getting Marshall over the line, I think that was a good bit of business, an easy bit of business. And for me, I think that will definitely go a long way in pushing DM when he comes back as well. So I think it's a good signing for all parties. And I expect him to thrive, maybe not straight away, but definitely in the kind of longer term and in the coming months.
Absolutely. And what's your prediction for tomorrow's game then, Adam?
I'm going to go with a 1-0 win to QPR. I can't really back West Brom at the moment. I don't have the most confidence in them, even with Daryl DK perhaps in the squad. So I'm going to go with a 1-0 QPR, but I think it'll be a tight game and it'll be an exciting one.
And what about you, Ben?
I'm going to sit on the fence. I'm going to go with a 1-1. I think QPR might go ahead, and then I think DK might come on second half and give West Brom a bit of a lift on if he'll score or not. But I think West Brom will get back into it in the end. I think it'll be a sharing of the spoils.
Fair play. So a draw from you, Ben, and a QPR win from Adam. If there are any West Brom fans watching that disagree, please do get in the comments. Let us know your predictions for the game. We move next then from West London to South East London, the Den, where Millwall host Nottingham Forest. A particularly interesting one, given the Reds' pursuit of Jed Wallace. Ben, he's set to return to the squad. How big of a boost is that for Gary Rowett's side?
Well, if his head's focused, then it is a big boost. I don't think in recent weeks before his injury, he's been really getting on the score sheet or assisting, really. I think a lot of them have come in the early part of the season, but he still gives them, a boost when he's on the pitch. Will his head be in it, though? I think obviously Forest are making a big play to try and sign him, but he does seem like a player who will just get on with the job. And, obviously he's considering his options with his contract at the end of the season, but he's given a lot of service to Millwall, and obviously if he's selected, then I expect him, to give 100% like you expect Jed Wallace to do. And, if he does end up scoring against Forest, then, it's going to be interesting to see what happens and how the fans are going to react. It's definitely a big talking point going into this one anyway. Strange timing probably for Wallace and both clubs.
Absolutely. Two sides, Adam, that will really, ahead of the season, would have been hoping perhaps for a playoff charge, and even now find themselves sort of on the outside looking in. There's obviously going to be a lot of focus on Wallace given the transfer situation, but perhaps the matchup between that physical Millwall back three and Forest dynamic forward players, that could well be the key matchup in this game, couldn't it?
Yeah, 100%. But I also think the likes of Lewis Grabban with his experience and Keenan Davis with his kind of physicality, I think both of them will kind of step up to that challenge quite well. So I think that would be, I think they're still quite a major threat really to Millwall, not just in terms of that kind of dynamism that they've got in there, but also the physicality. And I think they'll face a massive barrage tomorrow of attacking threat from Forest. I think they'll start with a 3-4-3. I think they'll go with Lewis Grabban on the left. I think they'll go with Davis kind of in that centre forward position. Obviously, Johnson on the right. He's always going to be a threat with his speed as well. And then you've got Zinkernagel, who's kind of in that kind of central attacking midfield position, who can be a real threat down the middle as well. Zinkernagel started kind of as a centre forward, but I think he can be just as a kind of influential in an advanced midfield position. So I think they don't really have to have a look at three. They've got to have a look at four, in fact, players that are going to be a real threat in there. And that's why, the players in the middle in the midfield for Millwall are going to be absolutely crucial. That's why we might see likes of Kifton Bell perhaps in the middle. Billy Mitchell might be absolutely crucial as well in that kind of respect. So I expect there to be a dominant Forest display, but also there's an opportunity for Millwall in the fact that they're going to have four attacking players, Forest, and they might be a little bit more vulnerable kind of going backwards. So there's definitely an opportunity for them, but there's also a threat, and they've got to kind of make sure they soak up that pressure from the away side and then kind of hit them kind of on the counter. And I think that's something that can work. They performed reasonably well against Crystal Palace last weekend. I was particularly impressed with McNamara as well. So no, I think it'll be a really kind of close game again, but an opportunity for both sides to get 3 points on the board.
Absolutely. And which way do you think it's going to go, Adam?
I'm going to sit on the fence. I think this time I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw. I think it might be a bit more exciting, but I'm going to sit on the fence in terms of this one.
And what about you then, Ben?
Millwall are normally quite, solid defensively a lot of the time, but, conceding 3 against Bristol City's kind of maybe lean towards Forest in this one. I'm going to go with a 3-1 Forest win away from home.
So a win for Steve Cooper's side from Ben and a 1-1 draw from Adam. We focus on Forest's East Midlands rivals, Derby County next. Then things looking particularly dire at the moment. Players told that they need to speak to administrators if they need to leave, and real concerns now with obviously Phil Jagielka's contract being cancelled. He'll be unavailable tomorrow, but at least you'd say the focus will be back on football tomorrow as they host Sheffield United. Adam, both teams unbeaten in their last 4. Is one of those sides going to lose that sort of unbeaten record tomorrow?
I mean, you can't really predict anything with Derby County, going 2-0 down and still being 2-0 down in the 85th minute against Reading and then coming back in the final few minutes. And it's been a theme, that kind of fighting spirit there. So even if Sheffield United do take the lead, then, I think you'd expect Derby to perhaps mount a real challenge, and especially at Pride Park as well. So I think if Derby do go ahead, I think they might be the ones that take the 3 points in this one. And I think whoever gets the first goal, it's going to be absolutely crucial in terms of that. And I think that's why the Blades need to make a fast start, impose themselves and be on the front foot. And, I know that they'll be the favourites on paper, but they've got to show that with that kind of high tempo that they've got under Heckingbottom. I think that will really be a massive boost to them as opposed to being under Jukanovic. I think if they were under Jukanovic, I think they would have perhaps lost tomorrow's game, but with that high intensity football, that higher tempo, not just in the games, but also in training, which also helps them in the matches, I think that'll be a real asset to them. So can I see either of them losing their run? Perhaps both of them, but perhaps both of them. Either side could win this one, but it is going to be a really kind of, again, third game in a row. It's going to be a close game in this one, and I feel like I'm sitting on the fence, but it's going to be a tricky game for both sides, and I think it'll be really tricky.
Then obviously we touched upon it, it's been a particularly difficult day in a difficult month, in a difficult sort of 18 months for Derby, really. Obviously, Phil Jagielka's contract cancelled. It sounds as though he's going to be off to Stoke City. But how big of a blow is it for the Rams not to have him tomorrow and moving forward?
It's a horrific loss for him. I had doubts about him, coming in the summer and, at the age of 39, playing next to Curtis Davies, a very, kind of aging backline. But I think I read something today saying they've got the 4th best defensive record in the league, which is kind of testament to not only what Wayne Rooney's doing, but how Jagielka and Davies have played together. And, he's getting picked up by Stoke, who are, at the kind of upper end of the table trying to go for the playoffs. It just shows how good Jagielka's been playing when he's nearing the age of 40. He's obviously not his peak anymore like he was playing in the Premier League, but he's still a very solid option at this level. And Derby losing him, obviously Richard Stearman will probably come in now, but losing Jagielka can be a horrific blow. And he would have been up for this one against one of his former clubs, the one he came through the youth system with. So yeah, it's bad timing for Derby, for Jagielka as well. And I think the way Sheffield United were playing before Christmas, before the fixture list got kind of torn apart and they missed about 3 or 4 games, they were playing very well. And with Jagielka leaving Derby now, that kind of leaves a hole in their defence. So I think that Sheffield United could potentially take advantage of that.
Absolutely. And what's your prediction for the game then, Ben?
I am going to go with a 2-0 win for Sheffield United. They were impressing me before Christmas. Beating Fulham was, quite a statement. To beat Cardiff as well. I think Paul Heckingbottom's good for him, even though he won't be there on the sidelines. I think they can continue the winning run.
And what about you, Adam?
I think Derby showed enough sufficient kind of frailties, perhaps at the back, I think for me to predict a 2-1 win to Sheffield United. But I certainly wouldn't rule Derby kind of getting an equaliser in that one.
Absolutely. Well, we've had plenty of comments in and predictions for that game. Wayne Walden is in saying, as a Fulham fan, he thinks that Derby will come away as a 3-1 win, is it? And Liam backing him, saying a Derby win for him, but that Jagielka is a massive loss, a solid signing for Stoke, and that might be Bielik, who is, of course, expected back soon, will be important. While EFL lover says Sheffield United to win, Hecky has got them going. Well, those are the 3 championship games that we're looking at this week, and next we step down into League One. It's 3rd place, 5th at Adams Park tomorrow as Wycombe host Oxford United. Ben, Oxford, they've kept pace fairly well with the top 2 so far, and sort of that top 3 in Wigan, Sheffield, Sunderland rather, and Rotherham United. Can you see them keeping that up? And how impressed were you with I guess the fight they showed against Sunderland? If they did look a little brittle defensively, conceding a lot of chances.
Yeah, they've obviously got back to winning ways in midweek against Bolton, but obviously conceding 3 to Sunderland, I don't think it's a massive issue considering they scored 3 themselves. Tafazoli didn't play in that one; he was on the bench, and he's a young 21-year-old lad who's not got much experience, so maybe that was a reason for conceding 3. And Tafazoli came back in against Bolton and they kept a clean sheet. So I think if they keep that kind of back 3, with Anthony Stewart, Tafazoli and Joe Jacobs, I think they should be reasonably sound, even against an Oxford team who've got a lot of, threats going forward. But similarly, Wycombe have got a lot of threats going forward as well. Sam Vokes is a handful at this level. Even Akinfenwa, when he's coming off the bench, has scored a few this season. I'm not surprised that they're up there at the top end of the table. Wycombe, Gareth Ainsworth seems to have them in the right frame of mind, and the way they finished off last season in the Championship, they've kind of taken that momentum, even though they got relegated. They've taken it into this season, and they should definitely, unless there's going to be a bit of a collapse in form, they should be in and around the playoff places, if not, in the top 2 or challenging for that by the end of the season.
Absolutely. And Adam, coming to you then, Oxford United sort of flown under the radar a little, given that so many clubs were being talked about as promotion and playoff contenders. But this would be a real statement win for them, wouldn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And this is kind of the clash of the 2 really stable teams in League One. I think, when you look at the likes of Ipswich and Sheffield Wednesday and the player turnover, the player turnover that they've had, And then you look at the likes of Oxford and Wycombe that seem to have a really kind of steady ship at the moment. Definitely both under managers that will probably be, obviously Gareth Ainsworth's been at Wycombe a very long time. Carl Robinson was at MK Dons quite a long time. He's been at Oxford now for a while. So yeah, it's just going to be a really kind of interesting clash. Obviously, I think this is going to be the type of kind of win that would get them back on track. Obviously, they've had a kind of hit a little barrier since, but to win at Adams Park against what's a really effective. I know that Gareth Ainsworth's style of play does get slated at times, but it's an effective style of play, and if they can get through that, then that will be a real statement of intent to the rest of the league, and perhaps they won't fly under the radar as much as they have done. I mean, I think I probably mentioned it in the last show that I was in. They do seem to fly under the radar for such a kind of a stable team that are always competing at the top end of the table. I think that's probably good news for them, though, that they're kind of flying under that radar. But I think they've had a full week to prep for this game, so I can see them definitely getting something out of this one. But maybe my prediction says otherwise. But no, they do have a chance of getting something out of this one. I think Herbie Kane obviously got a red card recently, which might affect their preparations. But I think for me, their draw against Cheltenham Town on New Year's Day was just as frustrating for them, because obviously they missed a penalty as well and they dominated that game. I think that probably contributed to their loss in their last game. So for me, the psychological part of it, I think they'll be in better psychological shape this game, strangely, coming off the back of a loss than they will be off the back of that draw. So, I'm optimistic about their chances. But yeah, as I said, my prediction might be a little bit different to what I've just said.
Well, Harry in the comments thinks it's going to be a Wycombe 2, Oxford 2, and that one says 2 evenly matched teams. Well, Alex Avis has said some massive games in League One this weekend. He's certainly not wrong. Go on then, Adam, give us your prediction.
You know what? I've got written down 1-0 Wycombe, but I've just talked myself into a little draw for this one again. So I'm going to go with a 1-1 at Adams Park. I think it'll be another close fought game.
And what about you, Ben?
I'm going to go with a 2-1 Wycombe win. I just think maybe Oxford, a few of the players been linked away this week. Cameron Brannigan to Blackpool's doesn't seem to be going away, and Mark Sykes has been linked with Huddersfield. Maybe those could be kind of head turners, and there might be a bit of a loss of focus there. I could be completely wrong, though. They could be right bang on the game, but I think Wycombe may just have enough in the end, as kind of solid at the back end. So I'm going to go over 2-1 Wycombe win.
2-1 Wycombe win for you there. Well, we've had some comments in the over the last sort of few minutes, and just a reminder to any EFL fans watching, please do get your comments and your predictions in, because we do love to hear them. Well, two sides that are sort of on the outside and looking in right now when it comes to the League One playoff race at Sheffield Wednesday and Plymouth Argyle. They're set to face off tomorrow, Ben, and obviously the hours of it's been a difficult period, that hammering at the hands of Sunderland and then following that up with a defeat to Shrewsbury Town. Where do you think sort of things have gone wrong for them recently, Ben?
To be honest, I'm not even sure. They had a pretty long unbeaten run, and they got thumped off Sunderland just after Christmas, didn't they? And in the reverse fixture in November, Sheff Wednesday thumped them 3-0. So it's a kind of a strange one, considering they've had injuries for that kind of time from October time till still now. They've got the likes of Iorfa still out, and they've been playing the likes of Marvin Johnson in defence, which can't really help playing a winger back there. And they've had to kind of put square pegs in round holes. Maybe it's just kind of catching up on him. Obviously, they've, like many teams, have not had many games over the Christmas period. Maybe it's just a little bit of rustiness that's set in. But they've had a free week on the training pitch now to try and fix what's been going wrong. I know that the Shrewsbury game was a bitter blow. You don't expect. I know they gave Liverpool a bit of a game, Shrewsbury. You don't expect Sheff Wednesday to losing league action against them. So I think Darren Moore has been doing a lot of, searching on the training pitch to see what's been going wrong. But I think they've got enough quality all over the pitch, individuals-wise, to, try and get back on track. But I'm not sure a game against a team in form like Plymouth is the ideal game to, get your teeth back into, to try and get back on the winning run, because they're doing pretty well under Stephen Schumacher at the minute.
Absolutely. Well, as Harry has just left the comment, just talking about Theo Cubiano, who was recalled, obviously, by Wolves and sent out on loan to MK Dons. His absence, Harry says, it is going to be a big blow. But Adam, we've heard today that Josh Windass and Jack Hunt could both be back in contention. How big do you think that is for the Owls?
Well, I think it could be massive, really. I think Jack Hunt, I mean, the kind of the atmosphere surrounding that signing when he came back in the summer, I thought was, yeah, I absolutely loved it. So he'll bring that kind of feel-good factor back, which I think they'll probably need ahead of this one. And Josh Windass as well, who was very productive in the Championship last season. So I think it will be great for them. Are they the players that they need to kind of solve their balance, really? I'm not 100% sure, but they're still, I think Darren Moore will take any returning players that he can get at the moment, as many available players as he can get. As you mentioned there, they've had rotten luck in central defence with their injuries. Obviously, Che Dunkley came back in for the Sunderland game and then was taken off before half an hour. So that obviously contributed, to their heavy loss. Obviously, it can't be excused. I think it was a 5-0 in the end. That can't be excused, but still, that's something that destabilises them. But no, I think still that'll be good for them to have those two back as well, and it allows Palmer then to carry on perhaps in central defence. And I think that's one player that should be commended for his contributions. I know that it's probably not his absolutely natural position to play in central defence, but he's still done a decent enough job in there, and I'd back him to play a big role again. But yeah, it'll be great to have those two back, and I think they'll be watching out. I think definitely Plymouth will be watching out for Windass as the main kind of danger man in there, and perhaps even the person that starts alongside Lee Gregory, because I think there's, Lee Gregory is one of the first names on the team sheet, but for me, he needs that kind of established kind of partner in there. I know he's naturally kind of an attacking mid, but I think he's got the goal scoring prowess and the kind of link up play to be kind of a second striker in there. So I'm really excited, actually. Hopefully he goes with a two up top, as usual, Darren Moore, and sticks Windass up there, which I think would be a decent experiment to kind of undertake.
Absolutely. And Ben, shifting our focus to Plymouth there, then as Helen says in the comments, they're going to be without Panuche Kamara, who's with Sierra Leone at AFCON. I guess we're really starting to see who Plymouth are under Steven Schumacher recently. Is this a chance for him and Argyle to prove that, under Schumacher's tenure, under his management, that they are legitimate top six contenders?
Yeah, I think, they've been pretty good on the Schumacher since he, took over from Ryan Lowe. I think the only one blemish on the copybook was against Sunderland. But, the way they've been playing for the most part recently, it's no big worry. And they've set up the same as they have under Lowe. They've just moved on to, Schumacher's methods and is playing exactly the same. They're playing pretty well. Obviously, Kamara's a big blow being at AFCON, but I think they've got enough to cover in midfield. Danny Mayer's been out for a little bit, but he's come back recently, and if they can get him kind of firing again from midfield, I think that's a big kind of return for them. I think if they do win this, then it's a bit of a statement, even though Sheff Wednesday have lost the last couple of games. I think they need Ryan Hardy to start scoring again. I know he's not been firing for a while. I know he's got about 12 goals this season, but I think this could be a game where, against kind of a threadbare defence in Sheffield Wednesday, that they could kind of, if they get enough chances, they could win by a couple of goals. Just depends which Sheffield Wednesday turns up. I think it's going to be a hard one to predict.
Absolutely. Well, you're talking about winning by a couple of goals, and that's Helen R's prediction. She thinks a 2-0 win for Plymouth. What about you, Ben? What's your prediction?
I think it's one of those that could have weird away. If Windass and Hunt are back for Sheff Wednesday, I can see him perhaps getting a point. So I will sit on the fence with this one like I did for one of the early games. I'll go with a high scoring 2-2.
And what about you, Adam?
I'm going to go with a 2-0 Plymouth win. I think they have enough goal scorers in their team, really, to kind of get through even if Hardy doesn't score. So I think for me it's going to be a 2-0 win, and the atmosphere surrounding Hillsborough is not absolutely brilliant at the moment anyway, especially with the manager. So yeah, I'm going to go with a 2-0 away win in this one.
Absolutely. Fairly bleak predictions then for Darren Moore and Sheffield Wednesday, but now we move into League Two. as usual, just the one game for us to focus on in League Two, but it was the one that was sort of impossible to ignore. That the headline tie, if you will, of the weekend in the fourth tier sees Northampton Town at host the league leaders in Forest Green. Rob Edwards' side, Adam, are 12 points above fourth at the moment. Are they as good as promoted now?
It does feel that way. It does feel like they're nailed on for promotion. It almost feels like they're kind of like the Brentford of League Two. You're just kind of waiting for them to go up at some point. So I think this season it might be the year for them. Obviously, there's always the chance that they could collapse and fall back into the playoffs, and then from there, as they'll know themselves, unfortunately, it's an absolute lottery to be in that top seven. So for me, I think for me they're as good as promoted. I think they've definitely got enough goal scoring prowess in there, even when they have conceded quite a lot. I think they conceded 5 against Oldham Athletic and got a 5-5 draw out of that. Conceded 3 against Crawley and scored 6 themselves, getting the 3 points. So I think if you're the opposition, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. If you push forward, then they'll come back and punish you kind of defensively. And if you sit back, then it almost feels like they're going to win anyway. So for me, they've got the right combination to win promotion. And for me, it would be quite a big shock at the moment if they didn't get promoted at the end of the season. I'd like to see the odds for them not getting promoted. I wouldn't go for that though. I'd definitely say that they're as good as up, but they've just got to keep focusing on the task now.
Absolutely. And Ben, obviously, as Adam's talking about there, difficult to approach, or difficult how to approach a game with Forest Green, given so many threats. Northampton Town obviously head into this on the back of consecutive defeats, and it's a pretty poor time, you'd say, I guess, for the Cobblers to come up against the team that's not just the league leaders, but the side with the best away record in the division. But do you hold any hope for Northampton?
Yeah, well, some silly idiot backed Northampton to win last week against Crawley on the betting show. I don't know who that was. I don't think Forest Green are unbeatable. I think they lost a couple early in the season. I remember them losing to Port Vale, where Port Vale scored 2 early goals when they were away from home. So it just depends which Forest Green. So they've been in really good form recently, and with the form that Jamil Matt and Matt Stevens are in, I think it's hard to kind of look past them. And then you've got Kane Wilson and Nicky Cadden just whipping balls in. They just seem to have an endless kind of supply of crosses to attack both Stevens and Matt. So I think Northampton have got to be on the game. But I think if they can try and contain them, I don't think there's a set game plan you can go into against Forest Green because they're that good on the attack, in the attacking phases. But I think the best Northampton can hope for is try and contain it and perhaps score from set pieces. I think John Guthrie's got quite a few this season from set pieces for Northampton, so he could be a one to look out for this weekend. But it's hard to see past Forest Green in the way they are. But I don't think they're guaranteed promotion yet. I think, as with the EFL, there's always twists and turns, and no one's guaranteed until they've really got that kind of points gap. I know it's 12 at the minute to fourth, but there could be a bit of a collapse on the horizon. Not that I expect it from Forest Green, but you just never know.
Fair play. And what's your prediction for tomorrow's game then?
I am going to go with a 3-1 Forest Green win here.
And what about you, Adam?
I'm going to go with a 3-0 away win for Forest Green in this one.
So 2 predictions for Forest Green to win, a particularly bleak outlook for Northampton as well then. Well, that is everything from us on the Football League World EFL weekend preview show, and from Football League World TV for the week. We've got an action-packed schedule next week with a lot of fan shows based on January transfers. But before that, an exciting weekend of EFL football. So to everyone out there, thanks for watching and enjoy your games this weekend. And thanks very much, Ben and Adam.